Gary Pert is our special guest on the Inside Melbourne podcast this week, with thanks to Zurich. And there are a heap of questions from the outer, which we're going to get to right through the show. Ben Gibson is my co-host today. Hi, Ben.
Hi, Clint. Good to be back and here at the MCG.
Absolutely. Let's get straight to Gary Pert, the Chief Executive Officer of the Melbourne Football Club. Hi there, Gary.
Hey, guys.
Thanks for joining us. A big one off the top, but I guess what so many of our members, 52,000 of them, are thinking and saying right now is, what on earth has gone wrong in 2019?
Yeah, and I can understand the disappointment. The entire club's bitterly disappointed. The supporters, all the groups around the club that I've been chatting to, especially over the last month or two, compared to how we finished the year. But the thing that I think we've all got to take into consideration, and this is a challenge now forever, is we've never had a time when the competition's been as close as this. With the equalisation and the draft, what we have is just the lists of every team are just so close, and if you don't get it right in a particular season, you're going to pay the price. And for us to be sitting near the bottom of the ladder is a reflection of the fact that in the off-season, we had so many operations. That's not ideal. Lots of clubs have that. A lot of our top 10 players didn't have the pre-season preparation to allow them to hit the ground running. So it was a lead-in, and then you get into the season, and I think the way we've played, our skills, because we're changing the team around, we're bringing a lot of new players in, our skill execution, our conversion in front of goal, all these things, if you don't get them right, you pretty simply end up 17th. And I wish I could sit here and go, there was one thing went wrong this year, because that means we've only got one thing to fix. But it really is a multitude.
We'll get to members from questions from members very, very shortly, but it's worth noting that you have spoke the fact that there will be a forum later on this season. Is that still going to happen? Yeah,
definitely at the end of the season, and it's not because of how we're going this year. This will be something that plays out every single year. It doesn't matter where we finish on the ladder. It's about accountability. It's about our members having the opportunity. Like I said, I'm talking on the phone. I'm responding to emails. I'm having groups come into the club. I've gone out and talked to supporter groups, and that's been playing out over the last few months. But the opportunity for all members to come along is something at the end of the season we'll communicate that. And it's about having all the club leaders and the football department leaders in the one place and giving the members the opportunity to ask any question they want.
Do you feel the pain that the members are going through? Obviously, it's been a tough year, but a long period of time that they've had to sit through. Do you feel that? Do you understand where they're coming from?
Yeah, and look, the members, and this is Members Appreciation Week too, and I've got to say, for the supporters and the members that have stuck with the club through, so many tough times, and I know we all hurt, but there's also an element that I'm in the rooms after the game and I see how much the players are hurting too, and I talk to Goody and the coaches and see how this impacts them. This is something they live and breathe every day, so it's not separate. For me, this is a club that I'm in here with you guys and the rest of the administration, and we've got really big ambitions, and my belief in what we're going to create is still just as strong. But do I feel the pain every single game? Do I feel the pain when I look at the ladder and see us 17th? Yeah, absolutely. But I suppose what I've got to use that with the footy department and the broader club to say, but we've got to stay focused on what we're creating as a club, and it's going to take a little bit of time, but you've got to have a clear vision on what that looks like.
And Gary, what members and supporters will be saying right now is that actions speak greater than words. Yeah. Will there be, or can they expect tangible change at the end of 2019?
Well, we're already starting to see that unfold, and that change will happen. It is happening, and we're already seeing some really great people that have been here for 10 years, sometimes 5 years, 10 years, that have played really important roles that won't be continuing the journey with the club. And we will be taking that opportunity to bring in some new people, new IP, new energy, new thoughts. What I see is a really great young list. And that list is going to be together for a long period of time. And we've got a great coach, and what we need to do is we need to provide new energy and thoughts regularly around that list, but we need to provide support and consistency as well, so that list over the next year to bounce back, but the next 2, 4, 5 years gets the best out of itself. And I think that's what I need to create as a club.
As the CEO, what role do you take in the football department review and seeing how things can change over there?
Yeah, well, I'm involved in the conversations. I think quite often supporters think there's one person running around doing it. But the reality is, with 10 weeks to go at the midway part of the season, when we got right in underneath the operations to look at on-field and around the players, what changes we need to make. And that gave us a good insight to where we were at. You can only make certain changes within the season, and we did that. We made the tough calls, and we'll continue to do that. And that's continued to play out. But every single person within the footy department, including the players and the leadership group, are involved in that process. And I've been involved in conversations so that we get a really clear understanding of what we're dealing with and the challenges and what we need to turn around for next year. And like I said, it's not one thing. It's probably, 14, 15 different elements. And then obviously I'm part of the conversations about what are the people, structures, resources, what they're going to look like. Darren Burgess coming in is a bit of a game changer in the way that he thinks, the way the program will be put together. I've already started to see some of that information about how the program's going to be different, and I think the players are going to have a very different pre-season experience, and I just find that exciting.
There is a lot of frustration in the membership base. I'm going to get to a few questions from the outer now. On the forum, in regards to a review, Di Williamson asks, what type of review can we expect of the coach's performance to be undertaken? Melbourne, she thinks, has gone backwards by about 10 years this season.
Yeah, look, and it's easy to say that we've gone back 10 years, and I understand that people are feeling that, but I don't agree with it at all. I look at when we've played this year, on so many occasions we've been in games, and through the skills or even goal kicking, we can go back. There's 4 or 5 games that we could say, even if we were to have converted the opportunities, we're probably in quite a different position on the ladder. So these are things we've got to get right, and this year showed you that if you're off a few points in particular areas of the program, you end up near the bottom of the ladder, and in the same way you can turn it around. And we need to deal with this year. You look at all the powerhouse clubs that are going to play in the finals this year. Every single one of them, if you backtrack through, have had a year or maybe even 2 years where they've been experiencing all the elements that we are this year, and they've taken as an opportunity to make the tough calls, to put things back in place in the right way, and then build a long-term era of success. Playing finals, winning games. Most of them have gone on and won premierships, and that's what we need to use this year to do that. So I understand the feeling, but I don't think we're far off it, as long as we make the tough calls and we make the commitment to this is going to be the year that's going to change things and turn us around for the next era.
Nicholas Tregallis wants to know, if you hold yourself and the coaching team accountable, can you single it to any individuals and see where your role could change to improve this?
Oh, look, I think every single person in the club, because of the conversations, is looking at going, what are the little 1%ers? Sometimes the big things are quite obvious, but the 1%ers about communication, about the resources, about the type of people, about the structures. Rest assured, and I think the members have got to understand this, is every single element of our program and club we're asking the question, how can it be better? How can it funnel into what we need to see as a big turnaround for next year?
You touched on your relationship with the players and being in the rooms. Do you feel like you're really connected to the group?
Oh, yeah, it is. But you're in those rooms, and when you win, everyone feels connected. And you guys have been in there. It's fantastic, and everyone's chatting and hugging, and it's a magnificent feeling. I think if anyone's been in the room after a loss, it's really hard to feel connected to anything. And to see the pain, and I think if it's a loss in amongst a whole lot of wins, it's not too bad. When we've had the season we've had, it's a pretty tough environment to be in there and to see those guys hurting. And I can't wait to the time. Hopefully, it's pretty soon when we're back into that environment where we burst back into the room and the players are singing the song and everything's great, because footy clubs are great places when you're winning, and geez, they're tough when you're losing. So, and everyone feels the same thing, and I can feel that. See Goody walking around the rooms, the coaches feel like they've put so much into it and haven't got the return. In some ways, the performance of the players and the coaches when you lose is even harder than you're winning. You're actually putting more into it, but you're not getting the return from your efforts. And to keep on doing that each week, it's pretty tough.
Gary, moving on, you mentioned the coach just then. Hamish wants to know, why did we sign Simon Goodwin to a 4-year contract?
So myself and the board decide on that, and that comes from a recommendation from Josh Marnie. I have no doubt that Simon Goodwin is the coach to take this player group forward and to get the best out of the group. And like I said, it feels really tough at the moment. No one's feeling good about anything. But I really do feel that this year could be a bit of a defining point, and we've got to make sure it's a defining point to go, that's where the real turnaround happened. And Goody's going to be the one driving that. The relationship he's got with the players is fantastic, and they just love his involvement. But I have no doubt he's the leader for our future era of success.
People on the outside probably don't see the hours and commitment Simon has for his role. Are you really impressed by his dedication to this?
Oh, yeah. I think all the coaches are dedicated, and they put a massive amount of time and work into it, and that's the assistant coaches as well. They play a really big role. But I've just been so impressed with his sort of love and care for the players and all the staff in the footy program. You pick that up straight away. This is a very tight group, and it's a group that nearly sees themselves as brothers, and they're so tightly connected. And when I say that I'm backing this group in for the future, in some ways I'm backing in the character and the quality of the people more than the athletic ability or the football ability. It's a group full of really high quality people, and Goody's a key part of that.
Does he need more support?
I think what we're saying with some of the changes that are playing out, that he needs different support. And that's not a bad thing. We see that every year. We won't be the only team that's making changes in that. And quite often it's just about energy and new ideas and new IP. Where's this player group? So I look at someone like a Brendan McCartney who comes in and he goes, I'm going to come in and I'm going to support a young coach, and I'm going to develop the young players that you've brought in. And after 5 years of doing this, which he did a fantastic job of, there's an argument to say in that conversation, Brendan and Goody go, maybe someone else with a different skill set or a different background or different IP needs to come in now. And these things are happening at clubs every year. And I just think it's a healthy thing, and I think it's going to be part of the re-energising for next year.
We've announced the departure of Macca and Jeno for the end of the season. When can fans expect to hear us announcing a possible replacement, and has that sort of search begun?
Look, I would say the members have got to know that we're having lots of conversations at the moment, whether it's with player managers, coaches, managers, looking at the structures. A lot of that's playing out at the moment, but it would be inappropriate to make any announcements until the end of the season, for all the obvious dynamics of that. So, the members can expect that when we're ready to articulate it at the appropriate time. We're still playing, we're still in the competition, so a lot of all the other clubs. So it'll be at the end of the season.
Jill makes a point, Jill Harbrow, in going back talking about the review, but she talks about an anxiety within the membership base. Do you understand that anxiety given what's happened this year about next year and what happens through the pre-season?
Oh, absolutely, because I think the groups that I'm chatting to and the individuals are chatting to, I get the fact that it's like, I get what you're saying, but we just need to see it. And we can't see it in a couple of really great games in the final 1 year and then things fall apart the next year. What we want to see it is like with the great clubs, the powerhouse clubs at the moment, the clubs that people can watch and go, are performing for 10 years, and it's week in, week out, and the Melbourne supporters want to see that, and that's what we need to create. But there's no doubt that I can understand the angst, and I think there was just so much anticipation built up at the end of last year, it just makes it a bigger fall afterwards as well.
Andrew Herschel says, we predicted 60,000 members this year. How do you maintain this 52,000 next year and bring them back for 2020.
Yeah, and again, what I'm talking about there is the best version of the club. And I have no doubt that this club is capable of as getting to a point where we're not only 60, but we're 60, we're 70, we're 75, 80,000 members. We got big crowds. We've seen that. When we play good footy and we're winning, we can fill the MCG, and we've had 85, 90,000 people in there. And this year we started off a base of 44,000 and we got close to 53. And that's with membership basically grinding to a halt after about round 3 or 4, where we had so many people say, I'm not happy. I'm not backing this team in for the rest of the year. And we saw membership stop. So for the members that signed up, and so many new members and so many kids and families, I say thank you, and the players are made aware of that growth. It's going to be really tough to keep that membership up and growing, but hopefully supporters see that it's easy to support during the good times. You know, when we're winning and when we're 10 goals up, that's fantastic. But Melbourne people have been so good at going, but I also need to be able to support during those tough times as well. And I'd like to think, while it's going to be hard in the lead up to the season because of what's played out in 2019, hopefully if all of a sudden we hit the ground running and we're playing really good footy and we're winning games, people will go, great, that's what I wanted to see, and they'll jump back on board again. So the ambitions of getting to 60,000 plus, I have no doubt is going to happen, and I think we would have got to 60 this year if we had played the sort of footy, had enough wins, made the finals again. We would have been on track.
It's been a tough year, Gary. We've mentioned that already. How are you finding it in the job? I mean, how do you and the executive react to what's been happening on the field?
Well, in so many different ways is the leaders of the club, and I make that broader as going the board, the executive, the leaders in the footy department, is we've done so much preparation and got all our plans on what we're trying to create with the season, and that hasn't played out. Now, if it doesn't play out on field, we all get the fact that it has a commercial impact as well. Crowd numbers are down, membership grinds to a halt. With the injuries that we've had, people forget that not only don't you have your players out there, you still got to pay them. So that can come into hundreds of thousands of dollars as well. So really what you have to do is you actually have to be flexible to keep on supporting the key drivers of the club and the program, especially footy. But you've got to be able to deal with the impact of it. And in a lot of ways, we've got to maintain our belief, maintain the energy and enthusiasm, and keep a really close eye on what we're creating for the long term as well. So, all the leaders of the club are constantly talking about that.
We know the performances on field have been poor, but are you really comfortable with the stability of the club off field?
Yeah, and I look, again, as I mentioned before, from the board through the executive, all the way through the club and the footy department and the leaders and the players. I think the alignment and the commitment and the belief has stayed really strong. And that's got to be about the confidence of the people that are driving the programs. As tough as it's been for the players, if you were to chat to them today, I don't think their belief on what they're capable to produce at their best has wavered as well, and that's really important.
John O'Rose wants to know if the facilities has got any update, if we're still a chance at Yarra Park, where you see that heading.
So we've got 2 facility bases, if you like, one being out at Casey, and we've just got $8 million worth of funding for Casey, which is great. And we've got our VFLW and AFLW teams playing out their training, $8 million to build an indoor skill development facility and change rooms, and a fantastic gymnasium is a really important step for us, because we've said to the girls, we want you to have the same opportunity to be the best that you can be as what our male athletes get. So Casey's going really well in that regard. That construction starts pretty well straight away. In regards to our home base in Melbourne, Yarra Park was one of 4 or 5 options that we were looking at and exploring, but you're dealing with state government, you're dealing with stakeholders in all these different regions, whether it's MOPT or the MCG Trust. And really, in a lot of ways, the Yarra Park, no matter how we looked at it, because it's not only building the base, you've actually got to have a training oval. That's the number one most important part to it. That doesn't look like it's going to be able to play out and be practical at an elite level. I think we're more likely to be looking at other areas, and that's certainly where we're at right at the moment, exploring with the other stakeholders.
Gary, last weekend was Retro Round. I've got a question here from Ryan. He happens to be my brother. He wants to ask you, cast your mind back to 1992, round 20, Victoria Park. You played on Alan Jakovich. Do you remember what happened that day?
I have no idea how many goals did he kick.
I think he might have kicked. He kicked a bag. Put it that way.
Yeah,
I think he might have kicked 7.
Well, he wasn't the only one that kicked a bag on me as well. But
have you bumped into Jacko?
I haven't seen him. I haven't seen him afterwards. But Fitzroy and Melbourne used to have some really good tussles as well. Yeah. So. I'll have to look up the stats. Surely you must know how many goals to have even asked that question.
He kicked 7-5.
Oh, did he really? I'm sure they weren't all on me.
No, I don't think they were all on you.
There would have been a few.
Hey, we're at the MCG. Friday night footy will be happening, Melbourne, Sydney. Give our members and supporters a reason why they should get on down and support the club final home game of the season.
Yeah, well, as I mentioned before, during these tough times, the players notice these things, and they noticed last year during the finals there was 90,000 people. The comment was it was the first time we can remember playing where we had the majority of supporters. We had the noise, we had the support when we kicked a goal, and they said, that just made such a difference because they've had a lot of times. We've got players like Nathan Jones who, he's played a lot of years where that wasn't the case. And so I know it's tough to come along for the supporters and the members right at the moment. But for us, everything that we're doing now is about getting what we can out of this year to build momentum for next year. So if you can, if it's something that you're available to send the message to the players and the club to come along, that's all part of it as well, because be guaranteed the players are doing everything possible. They'll be trying their guts out during the game, and the most support there so that they are getting recognised when they're kicking the goals, performing well, hopefully winning the game. There's nothing like being at the game when we get a win. So I'd like to encourage everyone to come around, be part of it, and stay strong.
Crowds have been a little bit low, as you touched on, but there are some people that are loyal and in week in, week out. What do you say to those people who just continue to turn up and support the boys?
Yeah, well, I take my hat off to them. And I'm chatting to a lot of these supporters that keep on coming up. And let's face it, we've had some pretty cold, miserable weather for these games as well. And people just come along. Many of them were sitting in the rain over the last couple of weeks. So we thank them. And like I said, they're just so important to the club, and hopefully we get back. So those times what they're toughing out now, like we all are as a club, hopefully that's going to make it even better when we turn things around and start to really build that momentum. And right at the moment we're all continuing to invest. So I say a big thank you to all those supporters and members that are staying strong.
And Gary, we thank you for your time on Inside Melbourne.
Great, thanks guys.
With thanks to Zurich, that was Inside Melbourne. Ben, thanks for your time too.
Thank you.
And we'll be back next week with our final episode of the podcast for season 2019. We'll catch you then.